There is a moment in Neville Goddard's 1963 lecture series when he says something so direct it cuts through decades of spiritual ambiguity. Every moment of your life, consciously or unconsciously, you are writing the script of your world through inner talking. And then, in a dusty grimoire from the Renaissance, you find the magician card of the tarot, a figure standing before a table, hand raised to heaven, hand pointing to earth, tools of creation laid out before him. The card's meaning? As above, so below. What is spoken in the invisible becomes manifest in the visible. Is two languages. Same truth. One says, your inner speech is the script. The other says, the magician's wand is the word that commands reality into form. So here's the question that changes everything. If Neville taught that assumption hardens into fact, and if the practice of scripting, writing your desired reality as present fact, has exploded across the manifesting world in recent years, then what is the difference between writing it on paper and writing it in consciousness? And more importantly, does one serve the other, or does one replace it? Tonight, we're going to answer that. And by the end, you'll understand why scripting works when it works, and why it doesn't when it doesn't. Welcome to Neville Goddard Universe, where we explore the teachings of Neville Goddard, not as isolated ideas, but as part of a living stream of esoteric and mystical truth that flows through many traditions. I'm your guide, and tonight we're doing something that I think will clarify a practice that has confused a lot of people, scripting. You've seen the journals. You've seen the manifestation coaches telling you to write your desires in the present tense, as if they're already done. You've maybe tried it yourself. And perhaps you've wondered, is this what Neville meant? Is this his teaching, just in a different form? Or is it something else entirely? We're going to map scripting, a technique beloved in law of attraction circles, against Neville's actual teaching on inner speech and the state akin to sleep. We'll trace the thread back to a biblical allegory Neville loved, the idea that God writes the new covenant not on tablets of stone, but on the heart. We'll bring in the tarot's magician, the principle of logos, as creative word, and we'll give you a scripting template at the end that actually aligns with Neville's method. So if you choose to script, you're doing it in a way that activates assumption, not just affirmation. And if this kind of exploration speaks to you, if you feel that pull toward the deeper unity beneath all these systems, then I invite you to like this episode and subscribe to the channel. It's a small gesture, but it tells me you're walking this path too. And that matters. Now, let's begin where Neville always began, with consciousness. Neville Goddard did not teach scripting. He never once, in any lecture I've encountered, told his students to sit down with a journal and write out their desires in present tense. What he did teach, and he taught it relentlessly from the 1940s onward, was this: you are always scripting your world, whether you know it or not, through inner talking. Listen to how he put it in his 1960 lecture. Inner talking. The world is a mirror, forever reflecting what you are doing within yourself. Your inner speech, the stream of unheard words that run through your mind, is the script by which your life unfolds. Change the inner talking, and you change the outer facts. Inner talking, not outer talking, not affirmations spoken aloud in the mirror, not words written on a page. The silent conversation you hold with yourself all day long, that is the script. That is what hardens into fact. Neville's entire method rests on this. Consciousness is the only reality. The outer world is shadow. What you assume to be true within you, what you accept as real in your inner conversations, becomes the structure of your experience. The world is yourself pushed out. So when someone comes to Neville and says, I want a new job, a healed body, a loving relationship, he doesn't hand them a pen. He says, what are you saying to yourself about this right now? Are you saying, I hope it happens? That's a script. Are you saying, I'll never get it? That's a script. Are you saying, it's already mine, I'm just waiting for the reflection to catch up? That, too, is a script, but that one implies the wish fulfilled. The technique Neville is most famous for, SATS, the state akin to sleep, is not separate from this teaching on inner speech. It's the concentrated, deliberate version of it. SATS is when you quiet the outer world, relax your body into drowsiness, and then imagine a scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. You don't imagine the desire itself. You imagine what would naturally follow if it were true. You loop that scene, you feel it. You let it saturate you, and then you fall asleep in it. Why does this work? Because in that drowsy state, the critical mind is offline. The subconscious, which Neville often called the subjective mind, or simply the deeper you, is open. It accepts what you imagine as fact. And once accepted, it must externalize. It must harden into fact. That's the law. Let me give you a concrete example. A woman came to one of Neville's lectures in Los Angeles in the early 1950s. She was deep in debt. Bill collectors were calling. She felt ashamed, powerless, trapped. Neville asked her, "If you were free of this debt, what would you naturally do? What would be the first sign that it's handled?" She thought about it and said, "I'd write a check for the full amount and mail it without fear." Neville said, "Then tonight, before you sleep, imagine writing that check. See the pen in your hand, feel the relief, hear the envelope seal. Know it's done. Do that until you fall asleep." She did, night after night. And within 2 weeks, a forgotten insurance policy surfaced, one she hadn't known existed, and it covered the debt in full. Notice what Neville did not tell her to do. He didn't tell her to write in a journal, "I am debt-free, I am abundant, money flows to me." Those are affirmations. They can be helpful, but they are not assumption unless they are felt as true. And feeling comes from imagining the end, not repeating the wish. Inner speech is the continuous script. SATS is the focused rewrite. Both work on the same principle. What you accept inwardly must become outwardly, now. With that established, let's turn to scripting. Scripting, as it's practiced in modern manifesting circles, goes like this. You take a notebook, and you write your desired reality in the present tense, as if it's already happened. I am so grateful that I now live in my dream home. I wake up every morning to the sound of the ocean. My partner and I laugh over coffee in the kitchen we designed together. The idea is that by writing it, you're sending a signal to the universe. You're clarifying your desire. You're acting as if, and there's something to that. But here's where it diverges from Neville, and where it can go wrong. If you're writing those words but your inner talking contradicts them the moment you close the journal, then you're not assuming anything. You're wishing, you're hoping, you're performing a ritual with no belief behind it, and Neville would tell you the ritual means nothing. The assumption means everything. But, and this is important, if scripting helps you enter the state of the wish fulfilled, if the act of writing it shifts your inner speech, then it becomes a doorway into assumption. And that's when it works. Let's bring in the parallel language. In the tarot, the magician is the first card of active manifestation. The fool is pure potential. The magician is potential actualized. He stands between heaven and earth. One hand points up, one points down. The gesture means, as above, so below. What is in consciousness descends into form. On the magician's table are the 4 tools of creation: the wand, the cup, the sword, the pentacle. These correspond to will, emotion, thought, and manifestation. But the wand is always first. The wand is the word.e, the creative command. In esoteric Christianity, this is logos, the word that was in the beginning, the word that was with God, the word that was God. John 1:11. Neville taught this constantly. He would quote John and say, "In the beginning was the Word," and that word is I am. When you say I am, you are speaking creation into being. The magician's wand is your inner speech. When you write, you are wielding the wand on paper, but the paper is not the power. The feeling is. The assumption is. The magician doesn't just hold the wand, he believes in his command. That belief is what calls the lightning down. Now let's trace this back even further, to the biblical allegory Neville loved. In Jeremiah 31:33, God says, "I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people." And in Hebrews 8:10, this is repeated as the promise of the new covenant. "I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts." Neville interpreted this psychologically, as he did all Scripture. He said, God is your own wonderful human imagination. The law is the law of assumption, and the covenant, the promise, is that you do not need an external mediator. You do not write your desires on stone tablets and wait for heaven to approve. You write them on the heart, on consciousness, on the inner self. That's the new covenant. That's the teaching. So here's the synthesis. Scripting works if it writes on the heart, if it shifts your inner conversation, if it makes you feel, even for a moment, that the thing is done. But if you're just filling pages while your inner voice says, "This is silly, it'll never happen," then you're writing on paper, not on consciousness. And only one of those is creative. The magician card teaches the same thing. The tools are useless without the will. The wand must be raised with authority. That authority is assumption. It's the inner yes that Neville spoke of. It's the state. So when you script, ask yourself, am I performing this, or am I becoming this? Am I writing to convince the universe, or am I writing to convince me? Because the universe doesn't need convincing. It only reflects what you've already accepted. And that brings us to the thumbnail. Scripting works if what? If it changes your inner talking. If it leads you into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If it becomes a bridge, not a substitute for assumption. That's the secret. That's the comparison that changes everything. Now I want to give you a practical template. If you choose to script, this is how you align it with Neville's teaching. This is how you make it a tool of assumption, not affirmation. Neville had a technique he used often, especially in later years. He called it remembering when. The idea is simple. You imagine yourself in the future, looking back at the present moment as something that already happened. Instead of saying, I want this, you say, I remember when I didn't have this, and now I do. This does something profound to consciousness. It places you beyond the desire. It doesn't just affirm the wish. It implies the fulfillment is past. And that implication is what the subconscious accepts. So here's the template. Take a notebook. Date it if you like, but the date doesn't matter as much as the feeling. Write in first person, present tense, but frame it as a memory of the transition. Like this, I remember when I used to worry about money. I remember checking my bank account with that tight feeling in my chest. It's so strange to think about now, because today I feel completely secure. I have more than enough. I make decisions from abundance, not from fear. I even laughed this morning when I saw the balance. It's just there, and I don't have to chase it anymore. Do you feel the difference? You're not saying, I am abundant, which can feel like a lie if you're staring at an empty account. You're saying, I became abundant, and I remember what it was like before. That's a story. That's a bridge your subconscious can walk across. Or let's say you want a relationship. You write, I remember when I used to wonder if I'd ever meet someone who really gets me. I remember those quiet nights when I felt so alone. And now, sitting here with them beside me, I almost can't believe how natural it feels. We don't have to try. We just are. I remember when I didn't know their name, and now I can't imagine my life without them. You're writing from the end. From the state of the wish fulfilled. And because you're framing it as memory, you're not fighting your current circumstances. You're outgrowing them in imagination. Do this for 5 to 10 minutes. Write until you feel something shift. You don't need pages and pages. You need one good shift. And this is crucial, put the notebook down and live from that state. Don't keep checking to see if it's working. Don't revert to the old inner talking the moment you close the page. Let the script you just wrote become your new inner conversation. If doubt creeps in, and it will, return to the script. Read it again. Feel it again. Let it reset you. But the goal is not the notebook. The goal is the state. The notebook is just scaffolding. The state is the house you're building. And if you want to combine this with SATS, here's how. Write your script in the evening. Then, as you lie down to sleep, choose one scene from what you wrote, one image that implies it's done, and loop that in your mind as you drift off. The writing primes the imagination. The SATS seals it. Try this tonight. Pick one thing, one desire. Write it as a memory of transition. Then imagine the end. See it, feel it, sleep in it, Neville said. Dare to assume it. I'm saying dare to write it, and then dare to beak it. So why does this matter? Why does it matter that the biblical allegory of writing on the heart and the tarot's magician and Neville's teaching on inner speech all point to the same truth? Because it tells us something profound about the nature of reality. The word is the creative power, not the word spoken aloud necessarily, not the word written on a page necessarily, but the word you speak in the silence of your own being, the word you accept as true, the word that becomes the law written on your heart. Across centuries, across cultures, the mystics have known this. The Hermetic axiom says, as above, so below. What is imagined descends into manifestation. The Gospel of John says, in the beginning was the Word that creates, the Word that is God. Neville says, I am is the name of God, and when you say I am wealthy, I am loved, I am healed, you are speaking with the creative tongue of divinity. The reason these traditions converge is because they're all describing the same mechanism. Consciousness is reality. What you assume within, you experience without. And the medium of that assumption is language. Inner language, imaginal language, the silent script that runs beneath every moment of your life. Scripting is just the modern, accessible version of an ancient practice. The Kabbalists wrote meditations on divine names to shift consciousness. The alchemists inscribed sigils to focus will. The mystics repeated mantras to enter unity. And you, right now, in the 21st century, you write in a notebook and call it manifesting. It's all the same. It's all logos. It's all the wand of the magician raised with authority. And the authority comes from belief, from assumption, from the inner yes that does not waver. This is why Neville's teaching feels so timeless. It's not a technique. It's a revelation of how you work, how consciousness works, how God works as you. When you script from assumption, you are writing the new covenant on your own heart. You are the magician, hand raised, calling the invisible into form. You are the Word made flesh, and that is not metaphor, that is mechanism. So here's what I want you to take with you tonight. Scripting works if it changes your inner talking. It works if it leads you into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It works if it becomes assumption, not performance. But it doesn't replace SATS. It doesn't replace the inner work. It's a doorway, not a destination. If this episode has clarified something for you, if it's helped you see the deeper unity between Neville's teaching and the practices that have grown around it, then I'd be grateful if you'd like this video or subscribe to the channel. Every person who walks this path with us strengthens the work, and I thank you for being here. Neville once said, "The world is a mirror, forever reflecting what you are doing within yourself. That mirror doesn't care whether you write your desires on paper or whisper them in the dark. It only cares what you accept as true." So tonight, before you sleep, accept something beautiful. Accept something audacious. Don't hope for it. Don't beg for it. Just assume it. Feel it as done. Let that be the script you fall asleep in. The outer world has no choice but to reflect it back. That's not faith. That's law. That's the promise written on your heart from the beginning. You are the magician. The wand is in your hand. The word is on your tongue. And the only question left is, what will you assume? Try it tonight. Write it if that helps you feel it. Imagine it if that brings it closer. But whatever you do, let the last thought you think before sleep be the thought of the wish fulfilled. Let that be the covenant you write within. And tomorrow, when you wake, the world will begin to rearrange itself around what you dared to accept as true. That's the teaching. That's the secret. That's the manifesting comparison that changes everything.